Welcome to today's topic of our tier list trash. And first, I want to mention two disclaimers. The first one is, this is off the top of my head, unscripted. I'm just going to ramble and rant about tier lists or the viability of tier lists in general. And the second disclaimer is, this is not to attack anybody. I am not attacking anybody who put in work, time and thoughts into their tier lists in providing some sort of knowledge to people who are seeking this out. The point of this video is to discuss how to view these tier lists. What kind of benefits can you gain from tier lists? Because strictly speaking, this game is too new to provide a tier list, and this game hasn't had too much time to develop some sort of resemblance of a proper tier list, because there is so much going on and they've put so much power into core stamps, into weapon stamps, into the boundaries, in different places, that you have to have an average on where to look at a character. Like, for example, take Bankai Ichigo. His B1 is fantastic, it's phenomenal, but without the weapon, he underperforms thrusts by quite a margin. And it's not even close. And he's a limited character. The same can be said for the stamp. If you don't have his stamp, his damage is quite a bit lower than anything else you can get for free. And not to speak from Toshiro, but the same is true for Toshiro too. I have his weapon, I have not his stamp, but something really good because it's ascended 5, so the damage bonus you get is quite good. But having his stamp will improve his damage by quite a margin too. So what I'm trying to say is this: tier lists, take them with a grain of salt, with a massive grain of salt. Like, for example, let's take Toshiro, okay? Everybody will tell you how great this Momo is, but is she really great? You get a lot of her kit for free, that's true, but what if you start later in your Bleach Soul Resonance life? What if you don't have these kind of things? Because this, for example, is this really that good? Yes, it just means that you start at full capacity from the get-go, and this part here is really weak if you don't have her B1. For example, if you have her B1 and it increases to 6, it becomes better. But is it as good as anything else another supporter can give you? No, because the fact is, if you have 6 stacks, that's a 6% spirit damage boost. And how damage is calculated in the game, it's calculated in buckets. It takes your attack as a base, it multiplies it via the multiplier that you have in your skills, right here. And then it goes through all the other multiplying damage that you have, like weapon damage, like the specific type damage, crit damage, and so forth and so on. This 6%, if you have another damage boost, like for example all type damage, it isn't multiplied by it, it's just added to it. So the 6%, it's not a true 6% damage boost, it's a lower percentage of damage boost. And not only that, to make it really impactful, you would need to have the weapon stamp to max so that it becomes 3% damage boost per inside. Now suddenly we are talking, right? Because now suddenly you get a lot more spirit damage, and now Toshiro and Rukia will benefit from it much more. But the fact is, what if you don't have Momo? What if you don't have her build? What if you don't have her B1, for example? Because the rest of her boundaries are all damage, and she doesn't deal any damage whatsoever. Even if you try your hardest, she doesn't deal damage. So, is she better than Orihime in that case? Well, it's arguable. It depends how far your Orihime is. Orihime, for example, needs the V1 to be viable as a support, because her support comes from her skill, from her technique mainly. And why am I saying that? And by the way, this is just context for Toshiro. The main reason why is because once you switch into the character, her Santen Keishun gives the support to the first character that you switch into. And this part of the super armor is what Toshiro has on his weapon. Is this part here. And his Tensei Jurin is the main damage dealing ability that he has, apart from his ultimate in Bankai. But without the super armor, if you get interrupted or if you have to dodge out of the attacks, it gets interrupted, you can lose up to 50% or 75% of your damage if you mistime it, just for this. So Horihime provides utility to give your Toshiro much more support, damage support, than for example a Momo. Does it mean that Horihime now is better than Momo? No, it's dependent on context, the same way as Nemo is dependent on context. If you have, for example, really good stamps on her, disregard mine. Mine are based on support, but you could push her for attack, and this makes her much more valuable. Let's say you don't have Komamura build, right? So you need a battlefield effect, and you take Rukia with you, for example. And she is your second support, so to speak, or your main support that you have, but she's your second DPS. So if you build a full-on DPS, which you kind of want to, because she's a she's a hybrid between support and DPS, she becomes really valuable because her damage can stack up with what Yoriichi has to provide. Okay? Is she worth building? Well, it depends. I am building her because more or less I'm a spender on this account, and I have the resources to at least bring them up to 60. But the thing is, even I am struggling to bring everything up to 60 because there is just not... I don't have that much stamina to go around to bring everything up, and the more you go up, the more costly it becomes, right? So tier lists are fine and dandy, but the context matters. Team building matters. Your availability to dupes, non-dupes, core stamps, weapon stamps matter. Don't follow blindly in your hype, because then you will be disappointed. Of course, Bankai Ichigo is better than Shikai Ichigo. But the thing is, in endgame, where do you need Bankai Ichigo? Trial Tower? Trial Tower doesn't care. If I don't have Bankai Ichigo, I can wait until a slasher comes around that I really like enjoying playing, and then I can push the Trial Tower. In fact, I have enough to push the Trial Tower, but I don't have to, because there is not much incentives besides the tickets to push for it. What? To showcase how tight I am in the leaderboard? I don't care about leaderboards. If you care about leaderboards, then you would be spending 2, and then suddenly tier lists become much more viable for you. If you're not spending, where do you use it? Here? What is the main factor in the campaign? It's damage. It's how far developed is your character to do the most damage that you can do. If you look, there is no damage here currently, but if you look at the rewards, for example, the rewards is not that massive of a difference, especially not in Jade. So even if you don't score that high, even if you score in the top 50, that's enough to enter it. But you don't have to have Bankai Ichigo to score that high. You can do that with a thrust team too. So where do you need the best of the top S, the god ranks? You don't need them. Do you need them in Frenzy? You get recommended damage types, yes, you do. But in here, enemies take more spirit damage? Yes, they do. But if you have a well-developed thrust team, for example, you can still score fairly high. Who do you want to compete with? Who do you want to need to compete with? With the whales on your server? For what? And that's the same here too. There is a difference in rewards, of course, but the difference isn't that big that you need to feel pushed to go for the metas every single time, or for the S tier characters, because those S tier characters, as I said in the beginning, it depends on how far into the character you are. A B2 Tozen with this perk here can be fantastic or can be bad. Because if your main character who applies the wound, because wound is applied by the character's attack, not by Tozen, by the way, by the character's attack which is on the field. So if you have, like, for example, an Ikaku who applies wounds, and half of the wound you have on the enemy is done by Ikaku, and his stats are lower, much lower than those of Tozen, then his B2 just isn't just that noteworthy. His B1, on the other hand, could be noteworthy. But because of the same issues of the averages of attack and stuff like this, it could still be bad enough. So it really, really depends on how far into the stages you are. And as long as you need weapons for characters, consider every limited banner not an 80 pull, but a 120 pull. If you need Toshiro and you need his weapon, because that's what elevates him to that level where you're like, okay, cool. Now he's at least at the same level as, for example, Bankai Ichigo, right? Then do you really want to pull for him? In this case of Toshiro, of course you want to pull because he's the only SSR spirit damage type. And the next best option you would have is Ururu. So if you want to progress in Tower, I always want to say Tower of Trials, but if you want to ascend the tower, then of course you would rather have Toshiro than Ururu, because Ururu has pretty big flaws in her kit, and she wants her the same issue here too. She wants her boundaries, she wants her weapons, she wants her stamp, and everything like that, right? So I'm rambling on. What I'm trying to say is this: take tier list with a massive grain of salt, hint of salt, salt of grain, of salt grain, anything. You don't have Ikaku? No worries. Build up Renji. Are people telling you how bad Renji is? Yes. But if you don't have an option and you wanna ascend at the tower, you can build him up. If you enjoy his playstyle, you can build him up. There is nobody telling you not to build up a character. Just be mindful of your resources and be mindful how many characters you are leveling up, and be mindful on which character you want to pull next, because you want to pre-farm the resources for the next character so that you can make use of that character as soon as possible. Momo is not bad. Orihime is not bad. Nemo is not bad. Ikaku is not bad. But they're fairly niche, and as soon as another character comes out which can cover his niche and bring power creep on top of it for something else he doesn't provide, he's out of the team. So suddenly he's not S anymore, he's B. He's in the B tier. What kind of utility does a character provide that he makes it in the tier list high up? And it can not only be damage, it can not only be how much support they give, it must be a combination of everything. Tozen will be long standing in his battlefield ability and in his way he is being built into thrust teams, just because of how it works, just because of how much he provides, not only in terms of damage but in terms of invincibility, in terms of being able to skip mechanics or dodge mechanics because of his movement that he has into his abilities. His Beinihiko, for example. When you get copies of his weapon, this gets up to 5,000 attack multiplier. 5,000! That's insane! That's the same as a full ultimate from Bankai Ichigo. Watch. Of course, just the reason why this is lower in ciphers, right, in numbers, is because you would have to account for the crit and everything else that he has in it. But just saying, it comes out about roughly the same. So a A5 weapon of Tozen out DPSs a A1 ultimate of Ichigo, of his weapon. That's basically what I wanted to show. Byakuya, no stamp, right? His stamp gives ultimate charge for himself, and it increases the damage by battlefield skills. Okay, cool. You don't have that. Suddenly, every full assault character that you have in his team, in his slash team, will be doing less damage because he doesn't have this core stamp. Does it make Bankai Ichigo worth less because Byakuya is not that good? No, Byakuya is still fantastic, and he's a tactician. He brings a lot of off-field damage. He brings a fantastic way on still doing damage while he's being out of the field, even with his techniques and his Bankai and his basic attack in the Bankai. He's still in there. He's still able to inflict stagger and being able to help juggle enemies while they're not in super armor. He has a lot of utility that you don't see, or it's not tangible, right? So he's a fantastic character to have still. Yeah, enough rambling. I've rambled long enough. The main point is, be very mindful of tier lists. If you see tier lists, make sure that it's context appropriate to where you are at. If you're looking at B2, B3, B4 tier list, then it's not context appropriate, sorry, if you're B0 on every single character, because those differences in boundaries, those differences in core stamps, weapon stamps, ascensions, etc. can make so much more difference than... And it will account for such a bigger difference than there is truly in your account, for example. Okay, enough rambled, that's the video. Thank you so much. Let me know in the comments down below what you feel, what you think about tier lists. And if you like this kind of content, please let me know too. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, what else? Call me, I don't know, subscribe to my OnlyFans, I don't have one, I don't know. What else do you do? It's up to you. I appreciate any kind of support. Thank you so much. See you in the next video. Bye.